My name is Scot Loyd. I grew up Pentecostal. I prayed in tongues, preached from pulpits, shouted with conviction. I lived with the deep certainty that Jesus was coming soon, that holiness was the cost of heaven, that we were the last church, the final voice, the remnant. But I also wrestled with questions I wasn't supposed to ask, and eventually I left. This is my attempt to trace the flame from Azusa Street to Arkansas, from ecstasy to Exodus, to ask, what do we do with the faith that once felt like everything, but no longer fits? I'm not here to mock or make fun. Neither am I here to glorify. I'm here to remember, to reckon, and maybe, just maybe, to discover the Spirit in a new way. I didn't know then that what I was hearing growing up had a history, a beginning far away in a city I'd never seen, on a street I couldn't imagine. Azusa Street, 1906, Los Angeles. A black man with one blind eye and a deep conviction that God still moved in miraculous ways stood up in a humble house-turned-mission and preached. William J. Seymour. He gathered people of every race, gender, and class, and they caught fire.
The Pentecostal power, when you sum it all up, is just more of God's love. If it does not bring more love, it is simply a counterfeit. The Lord pours out His Spirit upon all flesh, and people of all nations are receiving the Pentecost.
Not safe fire, but something wild, something holy. The fire jumped from Los Angeles to Louisiana, from storefront to white revival tents, from Seymour's pulpit to my grandmother's prayer closet, from Azusa to Arkansas, and finally, into me. I'm Scot Loyd, and this is Holy Ghost Preacher Boy. It's April, Easter Eve. I'm up a little late tonight, back at the old home place in Arkansas. In the morning, I'll be going to church with my 90-year-old mom, my older brother Ron, and my nephews. We're going for her. The church is a small United Pentecostal congregation just over the Missouri state line. It's pastored by a family originally from Kentucky, and I've been there a few times now with Mom. It's everything you'd expect if you grew up within or adjacent to churches like this. Rigid, rhythmic, bursting at the seams with certainty, full of well-meaning folks whose expressions of spiritual ecstasy are somehow as scripted as a cue card masquerading as spontaneity. In the tradition that I grew up with, especially in the rural United Pentecostal churches, worship moves with a different rhythm. It's not quiet or contemplative. It's embodied, urgent, fervent. It wants to stir the soul awake right now. And for many, that heat is holy. Still, I wonder what might happen if we let worship breathe a little more. Not lose its fire, but let it smolder sometimes, holding space for awe. Because regularly in these churches, the mystery of the Godhead gets boiled down to the mathematical precision of oneness theology. Salvation becomes a script, and anything ineffable gets papered over with spiritual certitude so brittle that one whisper of doubt could shatter it completely. But I know the sacred won't just be found in the sanctuary. It will be in the in-between moments. On the ride there, crossing the Delta under a warming April sun, in the joy that lights up my mother's face just because her sons and grandsons are going to church with her. That's where the divine slips in, through the cracks of ordinary life. Like Leonard Cohen wrote, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So for Mom, not for them, we go. We drive quietly across the flat, cracked skin of the Delta along Highway 61, the old Blues Highway. Just before the Missouri state line, we pass under a low concrete arch. On one side, it says, entering Missouri. The other, entering Arkansas. A forgotten monument to local ambition. We pass homes in varying states of despair, some still showing scars from the recent tornado, others just worn down by the slow, steady pressure of poverty. Roadside signs flash past us like theological billboards. Where will you spend eternity? Followed almost immediately by, this is Trump country. The proximity is telling, like conjoined twins born from the same anxious womb. No commentary needed. The signs speak loudly enough on their own. Mom's old Honda is running hot. The check engine light has been on for days. We'll kill the air on the ride back, roll down the windows, sweat it out. Ron says, it's like the 1960s all over again. Eventually we pull into the church parking lot, Apostolic Lighthouse, as if to say, we're the real ones, the lighthouse. Everyone else just ships in the fog. Inside, it's Easter chaos. Cupcakes with peeps on top wait like sugary trophies. We find Mom's usual seat, just one row from the back. People greet her with love and habit. Happy Easter, Sister Loyd. Our little row fills in. Me, Ron, Kaysen, Josh and his family, grandsons and a great-granddaughter. Mom in the middle. The pastor's wife teaches the Sunday school lesson, resurrection text in hand. Greek pronunciation, a little shaky. Apple laptop glowing on the pulpit. I don't remember the full point, but I remember her smile when she stumbled over the word fiduciary. She landed on trustee. Close enough. Grace was extended. Then the worship begins. Loud, of course, it always is, as if God is hard of hearing. Songs about the blood, every hand raised. Mom lifts hers. The rest of us stay still in respect. I can't help but wonder how all of this would sound to a total outsider, a stranger just stumbling in, hearing about blood and seeing all of these bodies in motion, the exuberance, the ritual, the performance. And yet, somewhere in the noise, the sacred still flickers. Maybe not in the scripted ecstasy, maybe not in the surefire theology, but in the breath between songs, the unguarded laugh, the soft touch of a hand helping an old woman stand, the way family gathers in a row of folding chairs and becomes, for just a moment, something whole again. Resurrection doesn't always look like what gets preached from the pulpit. Sometimes it's like a full row of chairs on Easter Sunday. A 90-year-old woman smiling, an old car making it back home, a little boy saying, Jesus, because he knows it's the safest answer. Sometimes that's enough. As I reflected on that Easter Sunday at Apostolic Lighthouse with Mom, the sound of voices rising in song, the pulpit just like the one where I had stood so many times before, the questions came back. Not politely, not in order, but all at once, rushing in like water through a cracked foundation. Why did women have to wear dresses exclusively, while men were free to dress mostly however they pleased? Why did we believe that God was obsessed with the smallest details haircuts, hemlines, jewelry, but somehow overlook the weightier matters of mercy, justice, and humility? Why was salvation so narrow, so fragile? A formula of words, a ritual of water, as if God was waiting for us to get the pronunciation just right. And if the pastor stuttered while putting you under the water of baptism, it didn't count. What kind of God did I preach? Why did we equate noise with truth, emotion with authority? Why did we shout about joy but live beneath a cloud of constant fear? Why did we treat questions like betrayal? Why was silence suspicious? Why were people who struggled made to feel like strangers? And why, in all of our bold declarations of holiness, did we seem so afraid of grace? Did we believe the Spirit was actually that small? Did we believe God could only work through our system, our church, our doctrine, and no one else? And then came the hardest question. Did I really preach Jesus? Or was I just parroting a version of faith that made me feel in control? The truth is, the questions didn't kill my faith. They brought it back to life, but they made it impossible to keep pretending. I couldn't pretend that holiness meant sameness. I couldn't pretend that fear was the same as conviction. I couldn't pretend that certainty was the goal. And once you stop pretending, you can't go back. Not to the pulpit, not to the pressure, not to the performance. Leaving didn't happen all at once. It was slow, painful, like peeling off a skin that I thought was mine. But the truth was deeper, and the Spirit, the real Spirit, was already moving me beyond the borders that we had so carefully drawn.